People sometimes give the impression that being alone in old age is a punishment. You're meant to sit calmly in a rocking rocker, gaze out the window, and wait for the grim reaper to pencil you in, just like when you're alone. Please. Being alone is not a punishment. It is an empty canvas. In fact, it can be the ideal opportunity to experiment, try new things, and even have a little fun with yourself. In actuality, it's about taking control of your time rather than wasting it. I've discovered some fairly ingenious and occasionally hilarious ways for seniors to make living alone a memorable experience throughout the years. And we're not referring to the obvious things like going for a walk or reading a book. Not at all. These are the types of thoughts that give your days a renewed sense of purpose. So stay put, because I have some treasures for you if you're prepared to turn living alone into an adventure playground rather than an empty house. At the very least, you'll get a few fresh justifications for why you haven't yet mended that squeaky door. First and foremost, assign a theme to your days. Living alone can cause the days to pass more quickly than a rerun of a soap show. It seems like Wednesday on Monday. It seems like Friday on Wednesday, and you discover all of a sudden that it has been pajama o'clock since last Thursday. Giving your days a theme can help with that. It's similar to adding flavor to a plain soup. Consider it as adding a little personality to each day. Perhaps Mondays are movie Mondays, when you relive timeless films like Die Hard or Casablanca. It's a Christmas film, yes. Nobody should be able to convince you otherwise. Takeaway Tuesdays are a great opportunity to finally try that Thai restaurant you've been admiring. On Fridays, you could dress up by putting on your finest shirt, pouring yourself a glass of something elegant, and walking around your kitchen as if you were dining at a 5-star establishment. However, your microwave is the issue. Gloria, a woman I know, declared Saturdays to be salsa Saturdays, but not the dancing sort. On one attempt, she unintentionally knocked over a lamp. Not at all, she brought up the topic of tasting salsa. She would make something new every Saturday. Judge it like she was on MasterChef after adding mango, corn, and jalapeno. She also maintained scorecards. Before they tried her pineapple salsa and pleaded with her to put it in a jar, her children thought she had gone crazy. The great thing about themes is that they provide you with something enjoyable to anticipate, no matter how minor. And the more ridiculous, the better. Sock mismatch Sundays, waffle Wednesdays, or even no phone Thursdays, when you go back to the basics with a landline call and a crossword problem. When each day has its own unique flavor, life is far less dull. So feel free to make your week a theme, because you'll feel like the star of your own show when you have a part to play every day. And to be honest, it's better than losing track of the day and being judged by your calendar app. Second, locate your third position. Okay, so let's discuss something that can fundamentally alter the situation when you live alone. Achieving third place. Furthermore, this isn't a case of a concealed treasure map. This isn't Indiana Jones. Simply put, your third place is that sweet spot that isn't your home or your previous workplace, but rather the place where you show up, get recognized, and don't have to offer tea to anyone or clean your floors. Home is the first place you go. Work used to be your second place. Let's face it though, retirement put an end to it. That's why you need third place, or, as I like to say, your headquarters for getting out of my pajamas. It's the place where people remember you, and, above all, a place where you feel accepted. The neighborhood cafe was, of all places, the third place finisher for one guy I knew. Every morning, he would enter the same booth, place his same order, and by the time he completed his eggs, he had learnt about all the latest events in town, including who was selling a car, who was upset with the mayor, and which waitress was secretly seeing the cook. Cheers was his version of that booth. He didn't even need to do the dishwashing because everyone knew his name. Next up is Martha, a former educator I met who ranked the laundromat third. Really, you would think a laundromat? Listen though, half the time she wasn't even washing laundry. As if she were the oracle of Tide, she would simply sit there reading, talking to people while they folded their socks and giving them stain removal tips. It was her social hour, and she stated, "It's the one place I can walk into and know I'll leave having talked to someone new." To be honest, it was successful. Third place has the advantage of requiring little preparation. No fussing, no cooking, no invitations. When you simply appear, people begin to anticipate you. All of a sudden, you are a part of a small ecology. It could be a park bench with nice shade, the hardware store, the coffee shop, or the library. That's what makes living alone easier. You're not merely chatting to your TV while lounging at home. If your days at home ever feel too quiet or burdensome, ask yourself, where's my third place? It may not be where you expect, but once you find it, living alone no longer makes you feel alone and gives you a sense of belonging, even if your home is quiet. You have a place in the world that says, "Hey, we saved this chair for you." 3. Gather narratives rather than objects. What happens if we spend some time living alone? Things infiltrate. Every drawer, every shelf, every corner starts whispering, "Hey, maybe you'll need me one day." Before you know it, you're knee-deep in coffee mugs from 1982, 5 sets of sheets you never use, and that bread machine your cousin swore would change your life. The funny part, none of it actually makes life richer. But you know what does? Stories. Real lived in, you had to be there kind of stories. Because when you look back years from now, you're not going to chuckle about owning 6 spatulas. You're going to light up when you remember that night you stayed up past midnight swapping ghost stories with your neighbor, or that spontaneous road trip you took just because the weather was good and the tank was full. Collecting stories doesn't mean you have to do grand cinematic things. It just means saying yes a little more often to the moments that could end up being memories. Maybe you join a group hike even though you've never been the outdoorsy type, and you end up laughing until your sides hurt because someone fell in the mud, and yes, it was you. Maybe you strike up a chat with the cashier and they tell you about the tattoo on their arm and the wild adventure behind it. Boom, that's a story. That's a nugget you can carry and retell. I know a senior gentleman who made it his mission to try one new thing every month. Sometimes it was big, like taking a painting class, even though he swore he couldn't draw a stick figure. Other times it was small, like ordering the weirdest thing on the diner menu just to see what happened. Each little yes became a story. He'd tell them at the barber shop, at church, even to his grandkids over the phone. And here's the magic. When you collect stories, you don't just entertain others. You remind yourself that your life is still unfolding, still full of chapters worth telling. Things sit on shelves and gather dust. Stories live in you. They travel, they grow, and they connect you to people. When you live alone, it's easy to feel like your days are quiet and repetitive. But when you shift your focus to collecting stories, suddenly you've got fuel for your next conversation, warmth for your next lonely evening, and a little grin when you're sitting with your coffee thinking, "Man, I can't believe I actually did that." So yeah, skip the extra spatula. Say yes to the experience that'll make a great story later. That's the kind of collection that never clutters your closet. 4. Redecorate just for you. One of the sneaky perks of living alone. You're the boss of your space. No negotiations, no compromises, no, well, maybe we should go with beige because it's neutral. Beige is dead to you now. This is your kingdom. Want a recliner that looks like it got stolen from a 1980s man cave? Get it delivered. Want flamingo wallpaper in the bathroom? Order 2 rolls. Who's going to stop you? The throw pillow police. I once knew a retired guy named Dennis who turned his entire dining room into a mini billiards hall. Guess how many formal dinners he hosted after retirement? 0. Guess how many games of pool he played with his neighbors, his grandkids, and sometimes just by himself while blasting Willie Nelson? Hundreds. That pool table paid for itself in laughter. And then there's Eileen, a widow in her 70s who went a totally different route. She transformed her guest bedroom into what she proudly called the Purple Palace. Purple curtains, purple rug, purple lamps. Even her chair had a velvet purple slipcover. My husband hated purple, she told me. Now I swim in it. She said just walking into that room made her feel 20 years younger. Redecorating doesn't mean you have to spend a fortune or turn your house into Vegas unless you want to. Sometimes it's as small as buying dishes that make you smile, swapping the living room furniture around, or hanging up photos from your favorite trip instead of leaving them buried in a box. It's giving your home a little wink of personality, your personality. And here's the best part. When you decorate just for you, your space becomes more than four walls and a roof. It becomes a reflection of your story. Every corner says something about who you are, what you've lived through, and what makes you happy. Now that's powerful. So if you catch yourself walking around your house thinking, meh, same old, maybe it's time to shake things up, add some color, get the funky lamp, turn the spare room into your painting studio, your train set empire, or your yoga cave. Make your space sing your song, because here's the truth. When your environment feels alive, you feel more alive. And when you live alone, that little lift of joy every time you walk into a room you love, that's not decoration, that's medicine. 5. Create a memory drawer. Here's the truth. Memories don't belong in dusty photo albums you only crack open when your niece visits and asks what you looked like in the 70s. They belong somewhere you can reach for them in a heartbeat, like a memory drawer. Think of it as your personal time machine, minus the flux capacitor and weird DeLorean. All you need is one drawer, a box, or even a shoebox if you're fancy, where you stash the little things that instantly spark joy. Old concert tickets, love letters, photos where your hair looked suspiciously like a bird's nest, but you were smiling like you won the lottery, a napkin with a doodle, a postcard you forgot to reply to in 1993. All of it counts, and don't underestimate the power of these little scraps of life. I know a guy, Martin, who has a drawer with nothing but menus from restaurants that don't even exist anymore. You'd think, big deal, some old menus. But each time he opens it, the man beams. He recalls how he spilt soup over himself, and how his late wife laughed so hard she started crying, as well as the booth where they sat and the waiter who always brought them additional fries for free. There is no paper in that drawer. It contains history, humor, and love. The wonderful aspect is that you can instantly feel better by using your memory drawer. A bad day. Crack it open. Is your home feeling a bit too quiet? Crack it open. Are you attempting to convince yourself that you did, in fact, have sideburns that could compete with Elvis? Crack it open. It's similar to an antidepressant, but it's free, legal, and doesn't have a warning label that states it might make you dizzy. The worst part is still to come. Not only for the past, either. You can continue to add to it. Add the receipt from a fun day trip, a silly selfie you snapped last week, or the wrapper from that delicious chocolate bar you vowed never to eat all at once. But did because your memory drawer isn't about holding on to the past. It's evidence that there are still many worthwhile stories in your life, so go ahead and create a drawer that remembers that you've had a fairly amazing life and that it laughs and cries with you. 6. Employ micro-volunteering. Who knows, maybe someone else will open it and realize, wow, they really did own way too many Elvis mugs. Most people aren't even aware that this gem exists. Volunteering often conjures up images of standing for hours at charity events or working long stints at the food bank. And let's face it, that's not always feasible as we age. Backs are tight, knees hurt, and sometimes it's just too much to bear to drive across town. However, that does not exclude you from giving back. Volunteering with a light switch is essentially known as micro-volunteering. When you can, you turn it on, and when you're finished, you turn it off. No worry, no guilt. It's those small acts of kindness that fit into your life without taking up all of your time. For instance, you may use an internet project to write uplifting comments to children in hospitals for 15 minutes. Or perhaps you knit. Make a few hats for preterm infants. Not a knitter? No issue. You may literally spend 10 minutes helping to transcribe old papers or responding to someone's online language query. so that future generations are aware that we were more than just potato chip eaters. I met a woman named Ethel once. She claimed that, although she no longer had the stamina for significant volunteer work, she still desired to feel valuable. She thus joined a project in which she assisted in typing out the words while listening to recordings of traditional tunes. She summarized micro-volunteering by saying, "I'm basically karaokeing for history." You can experience the satisfaction of helping others without having to wear a cape or put in 40 hours a week. The nice thing is that these small deeds of compassion build up. You do a couple here and a few there, and all of a sudden you have this unseen list of good things you've done that genuinely brighten the world. You also feel wonderful after, which is a selfish plus. According to science, assisting others improves your mood, reduces stress, and makes your brain feel good. So why not attempt micro-volunteering instead of doom scrolling for the 100th time? It's similar to delivering a high five to the entire world. It's quick, simple, and much more satisfying than binge-watching videos of cats battling cucumbers. 7. Have a solitary celebration that is distinctive to you. The thing is this. Most people save their bottle of bubbly for special occasions like birthdays, marriages, or grandkids' graduations. However, why should you? You've made it through another Tuesday. Without flooding the kitchen, you fixed the leaking tap. After touching every button on the TV remote, you eventually figured it out. Fireworks are warranted for that alone. Having a signature solo celebration is the solution to that problem. It's not about entertaining the neighbors. It's all about creating a small personal ritual. When you need a personal high five, this is what you do. At 9 p.m., it might be as easy as making a chocolate cake for yourself. On any Wednesday, or wearing your finest shirt, even if it has sweatpants on the bottom, and raising a glass of wine to yourself. Perhaps it's dancing like the furniture is your backup dancers while ABBA is playing loudly in the living room. Evelyn, a woman I know, has what she refers to as her Celebration Fridays. Every Friday night she pours herself a glass of champagne and toasts to whatever the week has brought her, good or bad. She lives alone and doesn't care much for clubs or fancy dinners. There are weeks when she celebrates paying a bill. In other weeks, she's just happy that she didn't choke the grocery store cashier who talked her ear off. In any case, it's a ritual that gives her a sense of life. You get to choose what feels unique, which is its beauty. Perhaps you're treating yourself to a meal at your favorite restaurant, something you typically save for rare occasions. You know what? Living is a unique experience. Perhaps it's lighting the pricey candle your children gave you, but you were too scared to ignite it since it smelt so good. Why save it until you're 103 years old? Now burn it. Now enjoy it. You don't need to throw a lavish party for yourself. It simply must belong to you. There's something about it that makes you smile like a child sneaking cookies before supper. Because here's the reality. Yep, I may live alone, but I know how to treat myself better than anyone else can. You shouldn't wait for someone else to throw you a party because life is too short. Even if it's just you, your chair, and a piece of cake large enough to terrify a cardiologist, throw one for yourself. 8. Work on your future planning. The thing is this, most people believe that making plans for the future merely entails drafting a will, organizing documents, and sometimes deciding who will inherit the fine china. Dull. That would be the equivalent of merely getting ready for a movie's credits, rather than taking in the narrative. Making decisions today that your elder self will one day congratulate you on is what I mean when I say future you planning. Consider it this way. In the future, picture yourself sending yourself small care packages. Perhaps you create a Future Friday fund where you save a small amount of money every week so that in 2 years you can finally take that amazing train excursion across the Rockies or indulge guilt-free in the greatest recliner in the world. Or perhaps you make it a pointless habit to record a brief video message to your future self on your birthday. You'll chuckle at your hairstyle, your wardrobe selections, and your grave forecast that hoverboards would undoubtedly exist by now when you look back on it 5 years later. George, a man I knew, went above and beyond with this. He addressed a letter to future George at the beginning of each year, offering guidance, support, and a few sardonic reminders. He composed an actual message one year. Future George, for the love of all that's holy, don't try online dating again unless you enjoy paying $19.99 a month for rejection. He subsequently opened it and laughed so hard that he claimed it was the best motivational speech he had ever received. The worst part is still to come. You are not a stranger, future. You are still the same. It is you who will gain from the little actions you take now. Therefore, flip it rather than focusing solely on the what-ifs. Consider the cushions, plans, and small presents you may send in advance. In the future, people will appreciate your thoughtfulness and perhaps even forgive you for all of those dubious haircuts. 9. Select your background buddies carefully. This is a secret. Silence need not be the norm when living alone. Indeed, after a while, quiet can become really loud. You are aware of the type. Having background companions is helpful when the hum of the refrigerator seems to be conspiring against you, or when the ticking of the clock seems to be making fun of how slowly the afternoon is passing. But I'm not referring to adopting 20 cats. Hey, if that's your dream, don't judge. I'm referring to the noises, rhythms, and voices that accompany you without asking for anything. To have a voice in the room, some people leave the TV on even when they are not watching. Others swear by vintage jazz CDs, talk radio, or even a live feed of breaking waves in the ocean. It would be like packing the home full of people, but none of them will ever want you to drive them to the airport or lend them $50. Consider George. He is in his 70s, lives alone, and has a 1950s rock and roll playlist on repeat in his house, which makes it seem like an old diner. Every morning, the man prepares scrambled eggs for Elvis. He once said to me, "It feels like the house has a heartbeat." That's background companionship at its finest. Margaret, on the other hand, cheats by playing audiobooks all day long. She claims that she doesn't pay much attention. Simply put, hearing someone's voice fill the house is pleasant. The funniest part is when she chuckles and remarks, "It's like Jane Austen moved in with me and she never complains about the thermostat. It can be tailored to fit your mood." Do you want energy? Play recordings of live concerts and visualize Madison Square Garden in your living area. Need some peace? Play a rainy soundtrack and imagine yourself in a comfortable cabin. Do you feel alone? Choose a podcast about a pair that quarrels like an old married couple. Boom. Without having to wash the dishes after supper, there is instant family turmoil. Making your background companions feel like chosen company rather than merely noise is the key. You don't have to accept whichever repeat is available. Arrange your area similarly to how a DJ arranges a party. Because the atmosphere of your home is entirely up to you when you live alone. To be honest, it's much more enjoyable when you are the only one who criticizes your musical preferences. 10. Make your house a curiosity playground. The majority of people consider their home to be a place to sleep, but when you live alone, it can and should be more. It can serve as your private playground and little research lab. And no, unless you want the fire department to show up, I don't mean converting your kitchen into a full-fledged chemistry lab. I'm talking about putting little experiments and why-not projects throughout your house so that there's a new discovery waiting for you in every room. Such like this. Painting has always been a dream of yours. Arrange a canvas and some paints in a corner. If your masterpiece turns out to be a potato with eyebrows, it doesn't matter. That adds to its allure. Or perhaps learning a few Italian phrases has always been a secret goal of yours. Put the words on sticky notes and place them about your home. As you make coffee, imagine shouting aloud, "Buongiorno, cappuccino." You may think this is ridiculous, but guess what? The soul is nourished by silliness. Harold, a man I knew, began collecting strange musical instruments on the internet, not particularly elegant ones either. A harmonica, a kazoo, and a recorder similar to those used by primary school students. His Palace of Noise, he named it. He would take one up and try to play it each time I came to see. It sounded like a distressed goose 90% of the time. It's like tricking my brain into staying young. I never know what sound will come out next. He described the other 10% magic as curiosity at work. This is great because you don't need a plan. There is no need for a schedule. Simply arrange your house so that there are tiny hints of intrigue everywhere. Perhaps there's a puzzle on your coffee table that's constantly evolving. Maybe your bookcase has one unusual book you never imagined you'd read, but gave a chance. Perhaps there's a spice in your kitchen that you purchased because you couldn't even pronounce the name. Being proficient at everything is not the goal. Giving yourself little surprises is the key to ensuring that your house never gets stale. When you enter a museum, you don't expect to understand everything you see. You stroll in to explore, to poke around, to leave with a sense of awe. The same can be true in your house. Because this is the reality. Boredom does not reside in your home when curiosity does. It's not necessary to live small when you live alone. Counting down the days isn't the point. It's about putting your own magic inside them. You get to be the director of your own daily show, whether that means transforming your house into an attraction for curiosity, establishing small customs for yourself, or simply selecting the voices that accompany you in the background. And that's really liberating, in my opinion. Nobody's here to tell you that dinner cannot be cereal 3 nights in a row or that the music is too loud. The rules are yours to make, break, and then laugh about. Go ahead and click the subscribe button if this opened your eyes to the possibility of living alone. It's cost-free. You won't miss any more advice or anecdotes like this, and it also helps this channel expand. Additionally, please share any tips you may have for making life a little more enjoyable when you're alone in the comments section. I would adore hearing them. Living alone is ultimately about more than just being by yourself. It's about having the freedom to live your life as you see fit. And that's something to celebrate, my friend.